Right.
Welcome along to the Cardiff City phone-in. Another great panel lined up tonight, particularly good one actually tonight. We got a couple of special guests on the show. Micky Villan, thank you, Micky, for coming back on again. Good to see you. Al Worth, my regular co-contributor and co whatever you are, Al.
We'll leave it at that. Evening.
And first time on the show, Terry Walton, who's the famous Ronda Radio 2 Gardner legend, who's on the show. Hiya, Terry.
Hiya. All right.
Thanks for coming on. There's loads to talk about. In about half an hour, by the way, we're hoping to be joined by Andy Dibble, who we all have memories of Andy Dibble playing for Cardiff City, but he played for a lot of clubs actually. But you look around, but for us, of course, as special his time at Cardiff City. Terry, if I can, I'll tell you what, I'll come to you in a bit. I want to go to Al first.
Right.
Al, just talking about the weekend, Al. The match.
Yeah, it's strange, isn't it? It's like being a schizophrenic at the moment coming on the show, isn't it? Last week we were all full of the joys of spring. There's a little plug for Terry coming later. We were all there thinking everything's great after the Watford game. All the new signings, we'd have Turnbull come in, and we were all pretty confident, weren't we? And the talk in the pub before the game, all sort of thinking we're going to get something out of it. Good first sort of 20-25 minutes, and then it just collapsed. Then a disastrous 10 minutes, and from there, it's difficult at home, isn't it? The atmosphere just seems to fall away. Again, we said last week, away you got a different. I don't want to criticize any home fans, but away is a different sort of fan. It seems everyone's getting behind the team no matter what, and at home you seem to get, if you're 2-0 down, especially where we are, it seems the whole crowd are getting on the players' backs. The players lose confidence. They're scared to perhaps have a go at what they otherwise might have a go at. Would we have seen Bowler have a go like he did at Watford on the weekend? I really don't know. So yeah, disheartening. But knowing Cardiff City, we'll go up to West Brom tomorrow night and we'll get some in.
Yeah, it would be typical of City to go up there and get something. Micky, quite a lot of comments about tactics, formation, the manager, Errol Bullitt, of course. What's your thoughts on it? Why what's gone wrong?
Thoughts on Saturday? I thought we first 25 minutes, as Al said, I thought we were better than them. We sort of they didn't have a shot on goal, Preston, and they caught us on our one counter attack, and that was it. It was just the edge went down. As Al said, the atmosphere just went dull. I'm surprised Colwell didn't start on Saturday, because I'm one of those ones who thinks Colwell sort of he offers something different. He's attack minded, where it was just, I don't know, it's but I'm not gonna throw my my hat in the ring and basically, I know there's a lot of fans are saying to get rid of Bullitt, but no.
But can you understand? I know it's what
I can understand the frustration of.
We've had a bad run, haven't we? Let's face it.
And I'm frustrated as well, but more than anyone. And it's just like, but I don't know if team selection. It's just sometimes it baffles me.
Yeah.
Again, Colwell, he should have started on Saturday. 100% he should have.
And a bit of surprise with Tete starting up front, maybe as well.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I was going to ask Terry. Any chance you could grow us a striker, Terry?
Well, I think we have what we call strikers there, but they don't seem to be able to hit the ball hard enough and in the right direction towards goal. You take that opening 25 minutes on Saturday. We had 5 shots, and 2 of them were saves, but they were sloppy, easy saves straight at the keeper. We seem to lack imagination in front of goal. And the thing I find frustrating, the team which came in last September, October, which put all those good wins together and were buying goals in, those players are still there. What has happened in the dressing room that these players are not got the confidence or are lacking in what's happening? And as you mentioned about Colwell, there's something strange happening there between him and Bullitt, that he seems to be taking a lot of criticism for Bullitt, and yet when he goes on, he quite often is man of the match.
Can I go back to Turnbull? What Al said, Turnbull now. Now, it's my mate, he's a big Celtic supporter, and he said, Turnbull, any opportunity he gets outside the box, he'll shoot. And in the first 30 minutes, he had a couple of opportunities where I thought he's going to let one rip, and basically didn't do it. So I'm just, whether he's been told, just basically got a pass, I don't know. But it is frustrating. But as I said, I think we get something tomorrow up in West Brom.
Just to ask you, Mickey, just to say, obviously, seeing you met Errol Bullitt, and he came up to Ferndale or whatever, and obviously, you had a chat with him and you got to know him a little bit. What's your thoughts on him so far this season as a manager, and what would be your inclination in terms of we have to make a decision at some point, don't we, in terms of contract?
Yeah. No. I thought he came across honest, but I think was he sold something by Mehmet Dalman and Ken Chu that there would be big funds available, obviously banking on the 10 million which would come in from the salary insurance. Obviously that hasn't materialized. Did he bring the players in he wanted to bring in? Me personally, I don't think he has. I think if you look at it, Kiefer Moore was nailed on, wasn't it?
It seemed to be.
He was nailed on to sign for us, and obviously he went to Ipswich, and he didn't work well. Whether agents dictate where players go today, don't they? Not players. So, but I've seen a few fans today on sort of WhatsApp groups and on social media asking for, well, if he does go, for the likes of Cooper, what's his name? Cooper to come in. But that has his pitfalls because who was Cooper's right-hand man?
Tate.
Oh yeah. Yeah, good point.
Could you? Well, I just couldn't imagine it.
Yeah.
Alan Tate, when he paraded a flag down in Millennium Stadium with the words "F off Cardiff." No,
I don't think that's going to happen, Mick. I was just saying last week, but I don't think we can afford him anyway. I got to be honest. I mean, Tan would have to break the bank to get Cooper down here, but also, I don't think Tan trusts anyone with his money. I really don't. And I think he's a little bit.
Do you know what? I think that's the big thing at the moment because he had his fingers burnt with Malky Mackay, big time. He had his fingers burnt with Warnock, with these players on long contracts, and his Warnock sending. Well, as I said, I know it's pointless going back, but he has had his fingers burnt, and obviously, I think Bullock was promised money for players. And it hasn't happened, is it? And I don't think he wanted to bring his. I think he brought players in, which basically were probably second best to what he wanted to bring in.
Mickey, I just want to bring Terry in on this, but the main thing that we didn't bring in, I think it's fair to say, we didn't bring in the striker or strikers, did we? Really, that we were hoping for. If I go to Terry on the screen now, Nigel Harris, Mr. Nigel Blues, thanks a lot. It's quite a long read. I'll read this to you, Terry. 80% of City fans watch us at home. The footballing results have been unacceptable since October. Mr. Bullock seems more occupied in his selections and tactics, overthinking the opposition and try not to lose more than win, and doesn't work. It's really important he improves us the rest of the season and shows progress. He's got to stop playing one-dimensional football with two holding midfielders. We must see more front foot football. What's your thoughts on that, Terry?
Well, again, this is a game where I become mystified at the moment. When he came in, we started off the season extremely well. We had that great run. So he was doing something right with the players he had then. I mean, I just feel it was a classic game where we played brilliant football, opened the defence up and scored 4 cracking goals. So I cannot understand why he's changed tactics and what he's doing. And I think the big problem with Cardiff City, and it stems back to when this incident happened with Salah. It was they were all pinning their faith on this, and something strange happened there. And I believe Cardiff City behaved disgracefully during that Salah incident. that they were trying to claim he never signed for the club, yet they were parading him around. And I think Tan changed totally towards the Cardiff City support group then after that particular incident. And I think the whole change in the Cardiff City setup changed after the Salah incident, when it all became about money, litigation, and all the money in the club was going into litigation, not buying players.
Yeah, and of course there was the announcement, wasn't there? The first kind of decision was settled out of court. We don't know what the figures are and whether
we don't know whether that recoups a large percentage or not, do we?
And where that leads us with the more important, significant legal decision still to come.
What I was going to say, Steve, was you read out Nigel's comments there, and got to be balanced, haven't we? And what Nigel has said has got a lot of support online. There are a lot of people backing what he said. Steve Wiggins was on last week. Wiggy was on last week, and he's in the same camp. Very, very dissatisfied with what's going on. So sometimes perhaps we'll sit on a little bit on the fence here. We do, but I think there's increasingly week on week now. I think people are, as Nigel said, 80% of people watch City at home, and it's got to be said. We've lost 6 of the last 8. You're coming away from there. It's difficult to get the enthusiasm to keep going back. It almost feels like a duty sometimes when you're going back there. Yeah. But again, like I say, the balance there. But then you've got Steve Thomas has just made a comment, which and he's always kind of optimistic. So he said the last 2 windows we made some great signings. Do you think this window's new faces can push us on, as with the likes of Hugel, Doyle, Drama, and Cabba did previously? What we do for a Cabba at the moment. I mean, it's if Jeju could turn into Cabba, couldn't it? Wouldn't it? Yeah. I see with the Jeju signing, coming back to what we were saying about Kiefer Moore right at the end. I think an agent must have forced the hand, and City thought they were going to come away with nothing there. I think possibly Kiefer Moore's agent might have been taking it right to the wire. City had to do something because they could have been left with no one.
Yeah. Ironically, I seen Agbo scored 2 for Sheffield Wednesday on Friday night.
I know.
Yeah, that was strange, wasn't it? He couldn't do a thing at Cardiff, and then suddenly he turns out Sheffield Wednesday in dire trouble. Good win at home, 2 goals.
That's Cardiff City. I just saw Mickey in there. Strikers leave us and start backing goals in for fun.
Yeah, that's been a classic for many years, hasn't it?
Yeah. Mickey, I don't know if you see this to comment on the screen at the moment. Bullets too defensive minded. Comes from Mourinho's School of Management. I was in his camp. Well, we were all ecstatic after beating the Jacks, and then the Wuzzles at home. Yeah. However, with the last dire home defeat, I suppose people are, it's been the home form has just been so poor, Mickey, hasn't it, for quite a long time now?
It has. Do you know what? I feel so guilty as well, because when we had him up in Ferndale, we just come off the back of beating them down there and then across there, and since then we've basically, we managed to escape a few good results. But things haven't been good since we've had him up in Ferndale, and look,
I think the major frustration. We'll pull off a win, like Preston away. We were dead in the water there, and we come in with 2 goals in injury time and pull off the victory. We go to Watford last week. We pull off a 1-0 victory. We think, we know the confidence will go up. Preston North End at home, we'll stick 3 or 4 goals in here, and all San Ferrian, we're on our way up the league again. And yet, that's where the big disappointment from the home fans are. They'll pull off a victory away. They'll come back to Cardiff City Stadium and lose. And then it's a big swing up and down you can't cope with.
As I said, I'm not defending Aaron Buller, but all I'm saying is, if we sack him, who comes in? We back to square one. He's not the new manager coming in, no money. Whether he could get the dressing room back, I don't know, but it's a difficult one.
I don't know if people are actually saying sack him, or whether or not people are just saying, look, he speaks the right game, but change the way he's doing things. I mean, we've got another comment here from John Stubbs. These are people like Nigel, John. They go home and away. These aren't just people just sitting around going, I'll just stick my 2 pence in, but I don't know what I'm talking about. These are people who followed City for years. And he said, I agree with Nigel. Bullet plays negative football at home. To an extent, I can understand it away. What Colwell has to do to get Bullett's trust, I don't know. Colwell shouldn't have come off at Watford. He was running the show. Again, a lot of people said that, didn't they? Our football is laboured, passionless and predictable. I'd rather go down swinging than put up with this surrender football. But if we're going to keep Bullett, which personally I think we should, but let's just change perhaps the approach to games. We don't have to be... We can play with a little bit of freedom. I'm touching massive bits of wood here, right? We're not going down, okay, and we're not going up. So now's his opportunity. He's got a free hand, really. You know, he can experiment with a bit of attacking football. We don't need to just sit back all the time, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. John said, and he hasn't got a plan B. I want him to have a plan B. That's what I want. I want Bullett to have a plan B.
So one of the things about that, Mickey, is, you know, I was trying to look for it down. I can't find it now, but I saw a stat earlier, and it's to do with the number of goals we created from open play. I think we created less than any other team in the championship. I think that's what I read.
Yeah, I saw that stat on Facebook earlier on, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. And also to do, you know, I think it was Preston and Rotherham are behind, you know, below us for one other stat. So if we look at the weekend as a classic, I'll just say one thing as well, which is quite totally secondary, really. But before kickoff, I would be right behind the goal at the Canton end, and you know, they all went up and practiced their shooting, you know, and like some of them were pinging in the stand and wherever it got all over the place. So Josh Bowler's banging them all on the back of the net, looking great. And then when the Kenneth came to the game, you know, and the week before he's got that great goal, right? And then everyone's moaning about him. He's a very left-footed player. And then, of course, on the other side, you've got Callum Grant who can't play tomorrow. So basically, I know it's fashion in football. We have two inverted wingers, and we have no wing backs. So if you have a big striker up front, how the hell is he ever going to score a goal? He's never going to get a ball crossed in towards him, is he? We just, you know, it just seems we need some width. We either go with wing backs or we allow the swingers to swap sides now, like we used to, you know. Yeah. There's nothing there, is there?
No, I agree with you. But I say, I just don't know what he sees in the Tete either. I'm just like, he's not
$500,000 worth, Mick, is he? He's not $500,000 worth. Put it that way, you know. You forget that we paid all that money for him. He just seems to me, he's like Bambi on ice, isn't he? He's going down all the time just to try and be backing in, goes down, backing in, goes in. He never actually wins the ball. And you just think that kind of money could have got us something I think that much better, but it's been late for that now.
He didn't seem to have the physical strength, Al, does he? He didn't seem to have the kind of robustness about him. He just he's knocked over all the time, and he's getting battered, basically, isn't he?
Well, he's like a pin, isn't he? He's like a pin. You know?
I think we lack it. I mean,
skinny legs.
We lack a goal poacher, don't we?
Yeah,
when the ball is bouncing around in our box, we got no one who can get on the end of it and put it away. We get it into the box, and there's a weak shot, and it goes straight to the keeper. You look back at the good time when we had people like Chopper, Earnshaw, and them. Yeah. They were in that box. If that ball was floating, you knew where it was going. Past the keeper and into the net.
Yeah, we did have one, but he's in Belgium at the moment.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, you know, Isaac Davis would be doing. We said it last week. You know, he's the person that we should have here at the moment. Bringing him on, you know, in the championship against some bigger centre halves, because some of them are. You know, would you want to be 75 minutes into a game and you've got Isaac Davis putting the ball past you? You've got to turn. Yeah, we haven't got anyone doing that at the moment. No, and that's that's the exact sort of thing I think we need. But you know, it's funny, isn't it? We come up with all these suggestions, but the people perhaps who should be listening
don't do it.
There we are.
Yeah.
So Terry, you're from the Ronda, yeah. So I don't know. Isaac, was it Isaac born far away from you? I don't know. Isaac Davis.
I thought he was born closer to you, over in the Ferndale area.
Oh right, okay. He's over that way, is he?
No, I think he's over. I think he's over to Tigo way. I think, isn't he?
Oh, he's that valley, was he?
Mountain Ash.
Oh, Mountain Ash. You're right. Yeah, you got to go over the other side of Marnie, so you're almost a roundabout.
Any English fans tuning in now, wondering about what valley we're in. It's such a classic.
There's so many of them. Even I get confused.
Terry, I wanted to come in to talk to you a little bit about, obviously, about gardening and whatever, and the Radio 2 stuff as well. But there's a message here from the Ace Podcast Nation, which I'll just come to you with. The Moody and Mackay damage is probably why Tan is kind of loath to trust anyone now, and likely why the Moore deal didn't get over the line, when you consider more than one journalist says, or alleges, I guess, that Moore contacted Cardiff City and it wasn't the other way around. I mean, it goes back to, points towards the stuff you were talking about earlier, I suppose, Terry, that kind of once bitten, twice shy, and you know, making decisions like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the turning point in the relationship. And and again, it was one of the reasons I think Warnock was that really upset Warnock, the whole way that Cardiff City handled that whole affair. And it then, also then brought that 2-year embargo on us, which meant that we couldn't strengthen the side for 2 years. We were depending totally on homegrown players and loans. And the week the side got weak, and the whole club sort of, the spectators gone the back. We had that right early days effect with Tan, when he wanted in red, then went back to blue. So Tan blows hot and cold as far as Cardiff City is concerned. And there's been so many things he's been caught. He don't put his money where his mouth is as far as Cardiff is concerned.
Well, some would argue the reverse, I suppose, wouldn't they? Some would say that he's put a lot of money in, and he has lost a fair bit of money along the way. But it's obviously it's a very much a matter of debate. Going back to your first days at Cardiff City, which I quite like. Tell us a little bit about the era when you started going down at the old Ninian Park, compared to what are your early memories of going down and watch Cardiff City?
Oh, I mean, in those days, everybody went. I mean, the valley, the Ninian Park Halt train coming down the valleys was like a train going through the middle of India. If they could have hung on the outside and on the roof, they'd have been on it, because there would be a massive support coming down from the valleys. And the great part was them walking down the road towards Ninian Park, getting into the ground. I mean, the average gate in those days was 35,000, 40,000. And on a big game, 60,000 was nothing. And the atmosphere was absolutely outstanding. There was no hooliganism there. There was a great camaraderie between everybody. There was plenty of banter with the away supporters. And again, the atmosphere on the ground was always brilliant. I always felt that football was always better standing up than sitting down. I think once they began to sit down, you lost the effect of the crowd support you had before. And I was in the era when, the game was much more free-flowing. As I said to you before you go on air, you had Trevor Ford in the middle there, a typical burly centre-forward. And the goalkeeper, if he caught the ball in front of Trevor Ford, then he was in the back of the net, ball and all. There was none of this. Yeah. The keeper was sacrosanct. You couldn't go near him. So they were the days when I actually started. And then the 60s come along, and we had a proper football side then. You had 5 forwards, 5 backs, and a goalkeeper. And everybody knew their position on the pitch. You had 2 wingers who could get the ball up. You had 2 inside forwards who could control the ball, and the centre forward who knew where the goal was. So you had a great atmosphere, and you knew where the way the game was being played.
So just to ask you briefly then, Terry, because you've been watching City then for blimey 70 years or something crazy.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts about, in a nutshell, modern day football and the kind of designer stadium sort of thing that we're living through now compared to those days?
Well, I think it took the atmosphere away, and took it took away as well. We were all in those days we bled Cardiff City through and through. We were full supporters. Everybody was there behind the side. But playing bad, over 70 years, I've seen more ups and downs than we've seen in the last 2 or 3 seasons. I can assure you. I remember when we dropped down the leagues and we got down to the old Division 2 as it was then. And again, we got up to the Premier. Well, wasn't the Premier, it was Division 1 then. Didn't have all this nonsense of a Premier Division. It was we were up there with the top sides. Yeah. And every game, there was a fanatical group of 30 to 35,000 people there on their feet, supporting every move that was taking place. And again, in those days, we even got stuff like European football down there. I remember seeing Real Madrid at Cardiff City.
Yeah. Yeah, what a night that was, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Where did the away fans go in the 50s? And what part of the ground were they in?
The way far, well, they were all integrated. There was none of this nonsense.
All right, just all went in together, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I used to stand alongside. You didn't know I remember standing alongside one. It was a Man United game back in the early '60s, and there was a Man United group standing next to me, ringing a bloody big bell, and he was getting on my nerves. And I said to him, "If your team played as well as you rang a bell, they do well." And all that banter were going, and you'd be bantering with somebody who would be complaining they were losing because of the ref.
Yeah.
You give him your glasses and say, "Well, I think you're not watching the same game as me." You could banter with supporters. There was never this segregation. You didn't have an away section or home section. And back in the '60s, before I met my wife, I used to go to all the away games, and you could quite happily walk to the ground, banter with the away supporters, win or lose. You came away still being friends, and still the atmosphere was good.
So somebody who may have an opinion on the old days at Ninian Park has just joined us. Andy Dibble. Andy, thanks very much for coming on the show tonight.
Good evening. I eventually got in, but
well done. No, thank you. I don't know whether you heard that's Terry Walton. You may have heard him on Radio 2. He's a got the most famous allotment in Britain, I think, and he just got gardening stuff on Radio 2. But he was talking about he started going down in the 50s, Andy, to Ninian Park. So as an opening gambit for you, what are your memories of Ninian Park as a stadium to play in?
Oh, very special. Obviously, as people know, my first involvement with the club was from when I was a 10-year-old.
Wow.
Obviously, as a young player, but then my father used to take me to the games. So I loved the atmosphere of the ground, loved that old stadium feeling. And it was eventually made my debut as a 17-year-old, and a fantastic place to play football where teams used to fear coming to.
Yeah, it was, I mean, to the fan, maybe I'll ask your opinion, Andy, on this as well. We're just talking about with Terry a little bit, to the fan. Okay, me then, yeah. Ninian Park to me was just like heaven on earth. It was such a special place to me. And then when we had to leave, I was quite distraught. I remember the final game when we got battered and the firework display. We talked about it the other week and all the rest of it. And now we got this modern, purpose-built stadium. I just don't feel the same about it. I mean, is that just me looking back at those days with rose-tinted spectacles?
I think that can be Cardiff City's my love. Everybody knows that, and I was fortunate enough to go on and play for Manchester City. So I totally agree with you. I prefer the old stadium personally.
Good.
You do have a new modern stadium. I say we. I wish I was still part of it, but I'm not. And I can relate back to a lot of people I talk to up in Manchester, where the same feeling is felt Main Road compared to the Etihad. You can never generate the same atmosphere in a new stadium as you used to be able to in the old stadium. I think the old stadium is more on top of the players, and it created a more ferocious atmosphere. Whereas now it's a little bit further away, and it doesn't seem to have that old feeling and passion.
What was the most intimidating stadium you went to play at as a City player, Cardiff City player?
Well,
a long while ago, admittedly.
It has to be the Vetch, because I made my debut on the Saturday as a 17-year-old. Sadly, when God bless him, my mentor Ron Healy had that serious injury, it set me on my way at the City, set me way on in my goalkeeping and footballing pathway. But my first game was against Palace, and then the next one was in the against Swansea in the two-legged
Welsh Cup final.
Welsh Cup final. Yeah, we're going down there. It was a full house in the second leg, and as a 17-year-old, it was a fledgling. It was some atmosphere. So
it was
one of my biggest games. The Welsh Cup final might not be looked upon as big as it used to be, but for
Mickey,
me and them,
you were there, I guess, weren't you?
Sorry,
I just wondered, Mickey, you would have been there for that game, would you? Randy,
I was there, Andy. I was there for that game in the West Terrace behind the goals. It was that game. We got relegated, if you remember. We lost to Luton Town the week before on a Thursday night.
That's right.
If I remember rightly, we need to win by 3 clear goals. But I think we lost 3-2. Kitch come on in the second half. I think he scored 2 goals, 2 late goals. And then we played Swansea at home. We drew 0-0 in the first leg. And then we went down to the Vetch, and the crowd was about 17, 18,000. And they were in Division 1, and we just got relegated to Division 3. And we had about 5,000 or 6,000 there, and we were all tightly compacted in our West Terrace playing the goals. Gary Bedder scored in the first couple of minutes, didn't he, if you remember?
Yeah, that's right. And for myself, being that young, it was like
I can imagine.
Lions then, really. So it was a big, big night, and one I'll never forget. Obviously, nobody wants to be on a losing side, especially against the Swans. We all know that. Yeah. But what an atmosphere to make my debut in. I mean, at the back end of the scale, I made my debut for Glasgow Rangers against Celtic. 0-0 at Celtic Park, so in front of 62,000. So I'm fortunate enough to experience going away from the city, derbies in Manchester, Glasgow, and in Cardiff. So I'm considering myself very lucky, to be honest.
So I know. Sorry, Mickey, just in a second. I'll go to Al in a bit after you speak, because I know some comments coming on Facebook. Fire away, Mickey. Sorry.
What was your most memorable game with City, Andy?
Well, that's a fantastic one, because it wasn't too long later when on my 18th birthday we got promotion.
Yeah.
And I remember going up to Cumbrae that evening, and I suppose I was old enough to drink then, celebrating with my family. and all the team coming up, Phil Dwyer, Gary Bennett, everybody came up to Cumbrae, and it was a fantastic evening.
We almost forget, Andy, right? That there was a full season effectively after your debut from when we got promoted. We were only 18 when we got promoted. You can't believe it. How young you were when you made your debut. We were talking in the pub before the game on Saturday. One of the boys I was with saw your debut at Crystal Palace. So we're all buoyant in the pub. We have a couple of pints. We're all talking, like Steve said, about the rose-coloured spectacles. Oh, that was great. Remember this, remember that. And then we went and watched that game on Saturday. It was like boom, back down to
I think some of the lads were back. Was it for Saturday's game? I wish I could have been there, but I couldn't, sadly.
Do you still follow the City results, Andy, all the time?
Yeah, all the time. It's first and foremost for me. Everybody knows that how much the club means to me. I mean, I didn't want to leave the club. I know we can't talk too much about that. And sadly, that was taken away from me. But my involvement, as I said, was from a 10-year-old, when I used to go and kick balls and save balls down at Cumbrae Stadium. And I've always followed the club through thick and thin.
So just before we've got a question. We've got a question on Facebook, and I don't know. I've got a question. I don't know if you can answer. It's nothing to do with you at Cardiff City, but more your opinion. Okay. So Jack Taylor's asked, what were your thoughts on Runnison when he came here from Arsenal? What do you think there was a clause? Sorry, I've lost it now. There we go. Do you think there was a clause in his contract that said that he had to make so many appearances for us? Now that may you might not know. I don't know. I mean, I always think when our performances went downhill was when the manager started tinkering, because Runnison came in and all of a sudden things started to go a little bit.
It's a difficult one for me to comment on.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously, as you know, from the moment I entered the door at the football club, I'll always say that I brought in every single goalkeeper via the manager was Nod, obviously Neil Warnock. And I did that up until the time that Steve Morrison didn't want me in the building anymore.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting one with Runnison. Obviously, he's not fitted the bill. I don't know too much about him because obviously he's played his football over in Turkey. The manager will have seen him and knows a little bit more.
Yeah. Who do you think was the best keeper then that you brought in? Obviously, when we're not doing well, when we're not doing well, we're in the Premiership. Obviously, the goalkeeper's always going to look very good, isn't he? Because he's being bombarded with shots. I'm thinking Neil Edridge, for example. But who do you think was the best goalkeeper you brought in?
Well, I think obviously with Neil Edridge, he was total value for money because I brought him in on a free transfer. Yeah. We didn't pay any money for him. I think Alex Smithies was also a very good buy for the club. Although we did have to pay money for him, but that's probably the price you pay when you get in the Premier League. Although we weren't paying out telephone numbers, it was still quite a lot of money. But both of them ended up with Player of the Year awards. So I'm quite proud of myself identifying them, and obviously then the guys delivering on the pitch. And also, let's not forget Dylan Phillips, who probably didn't have quite the run I would have liked to seen him have.
Yeah. Just before I go back to Alex, there's some more questions. By the way, the other people on the panel chip in. There's so many questions coming in. Andy, we were talking earlier, talking to Terry. Terry started watching City in the 1950s, and he was talking about Danny Malloy being a big centre half. And in my when I started watching City, my hero was one of my heroes was Don Murray. Yeah. What was the best? What was the best centre half or centre half pairing that you played behind?
Well,
in your career and Cardiff City,
it has to be obviously Phil Dwyer and Gary Bennett. Also, Jimmy Mullen played in the back four, left back. So there's three lads there that proper competitors, proper centre halves. I know Jimmy played at left back as well, but Gary and Phil were immense.
And so Phil Dwyer, obviously, so sad about Phil Dwyer. Have you got kind of memories about Phil as a character and a Cardiff City kind of legend?
Yeah, well, I was. I think there must have been. I was in awe of Phil, but I remember I was asked to play in a combination game. I think they called it Norwich City, and I think I was only 14. Maybe just turning 15, which is very, very young. And we went all the way to Norwich on the train, and we came back on the train, and I had a really good afternoon, although we lost the game 2-0. But I remember Phil after the game coming back, and he was having a few cans of lager on the train and telling me I was too young to drink. But to see his tenacity in games and the way he played, I mean, the games I played behind him afterwards, I've never seen a player so much committed towards a football club, and you can never look at Phil when he come off the field and say he hasn't give everything for the football club.
No, I mean, there's so many things we could ask you. I'm just conscious people on the panel want to chip in. Do you want to go through a couple of the questions on Facebook first, Al?
Yeah, Martin Edwards, Ed said, what did it feel like when you came on for Man City against us in the Cup? The stadium was rocking after Blake had scored. I'd forgotten all about that. Actually.
Yeah, I'll never forget that. Obviously, I know Blakey well. He only lives up the road from my mum in Cumbria. He's up in Abergavenny, isn't he? So, yeah, personally, I would have loved to start at the bench as everybody. Sorry, I would have loved to start and not come off the bench. Having been Man City's #1 goalkeeper for the first 3 years, and then TC comes in, Tony Coton. But to come on at Cardiff was unbelievable. Afterwards, you wonder, bloody hell, he's old mate's fired something past me there. And obviously, you've got to do the best for the team you're playing for. Yeah. But on that day, Cardiff were worthy winners of the game.
And Steve Thomas, another one there, Steve, who I think he was living in London at the time, because he saw your debut as well in 1982. He said, I remember you saving a few penalties for us. Do you have a favourite memory of any spot kick save that you made while you were at City?
I think it would have been at Leeds United.
Oh, we temporarily lost Andy.
That was a swear word.
No. Pardon?
It was a swear word. Leeds United.
No. I'm sure he'll come back in. So while waiting for Andy to come back in, because it's great to be talking about it. Terry, have we got any memories of Andy Dibble playing for City?
I don't. Andy was there when I was mainly in armchairs. I remember him very well, but I mean, I was more of an armchair supporter there, and I have no particular ones I can think of at that time. No.
Okay. You're back. You're back, Andy. Yeah, sorry. We just.
I don't know what happened then. I'm sorry, guys.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Andy, you were saying about the penalty save at Leeds.
I'm sure he's at Leeds. Would I be right? I'm sure he's from. I'm sure he's at Leeds United. I'm definitely 100% Leeds United.
Someone will tell us.
Yeah.
That would have been 83 then, that would have been.
After we got promoted, that season after we got promoted. Nigel Harris then, who was a regular contributor on here, Andy, he said, I remember Andy's first full season having his granddad on our coach coming to watch him play away. what a brilliant keeper he was when he was a cup final medal winner for Luton in a shock win over Arsenal. It was still a proud moment for City fans. I can remember that as well, because there weren't that many City players who actually went on to something better, and it's particularly winning anything, you know. So you all kind of identify, and Micky will say the same, I know, because we've spoken about it previously. You all kind of identify with those players who go on to something bigger, or something better, and you know, I can remember that quite vividly. Although I wouldn't say
that was a fantastic day as well. I mean, you know, when you talk about the Welsh Cup and obviously the League Cup back in them days, as we call it, it was a Littlewoods Cup. Probably a record attendance, I think, close on 99,000. So a massive, you know, when I look at our club at the moment and I look where Luton are, I mean, they don't have the support we have. Yeah, we should be where they are. I know nobody has a divine right to be in the Premier League, but I shouldn't use this pun. I take my hat off to them.
Are you still? I'm imagining you are after that penalty save, but are you still as fondly remembered at Luton as you are at City?
Yeah, I think it's one of them moments that'll always stick with that generation of people, because it was such a big occasion for the team that's probably is not the most supported team, and there was always been 12,000 diehards at Luton Town, that's for sure. I mean, when you look at Cardiff City, if we were at the top end of the scale, there'd be 40,000 plus.
Micky, did you want to ask anything to Andy? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, that 82-83 season, Andy, obviously, for your perspective, was that obviously the Luton game against Arsenal was probably your biggest achievement, I would reckon, yeah? When you won the Milk Cup, would you say then that the game that season, 82-83 season, does that go down in memory as as a great sort of season for you with the promotion we had?
Yeah, it was a fantastic promotion year, and then and the following season as well, I really enjoyed. You know, it's now the Championship. A lot. I don't know. A lot of people said to me, "You might have left the club a bit too early." It was. I wouldn't say I wasn't forced out of the club, that's for sure. But the opportunity come to go to Luton with David Pleat. I was freed of a contract. Maybe if I'd have stayed on a couple of more years, it might have been more beneficial for me. It's always, you know, the past is gone now. But my times at the club are special for me, whether it's been as a coach or a player.
So I think I'm right, Andy. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm always wrong, but I worked out to like 19 clubs you ended up playing for altogether, and you went back to some of them a few times. There's a lot of clubs you went to. Yeah,
I think. Well, what happened after I left Luton to go to Manchester City? In them days, you had no sort. I tell a lie, because obviously I did come on before they introduced the sub goalkeeper to coming on, which we talked Cardiff game. A lot of them clubs were loan clubs, so I was one of them that. When Tony Colton came, I didn't want to be one that was going to sit on the bench. So you'll see in there are a few loan clubs. You know, the West Broms, the Sunderlands, the Bolton Wanderers. They were teams where I didn't want to sit on my bum. Yeah. And I wanted to go and play football.
I wonder if that same attitude prevails in modern day football with the money that's knocking about. But
well, it's interesting because, you know, you can become a millionaire in the Premier League.
Absolutely,
Which obviously, you know, I wouldn't have wanted to have done that. I wanted to play as often as I could.
What's your thoughts on this thing? We talked about Runnison earlier, and we've talked about it with other goalkeepers, and this playing from the back stuff, and that it's almost like a goalie when these days. You know, it's terrifying sometimes when you see it going on. As a more traditional goalkeeper, any thoughts on that at all?
I think that, I mean, I've been fortunate enough now to see football from the bottom league up to the top league and vice all through the levels. And I think you've got to play to your players' strengths. Obviously, you know, now I'm working for Accrington and Stanley, which I'm thoroughly enjoying. It's a different type of challenge. A very young team, working at the moment with a young lone goalkeeper from Manchester United. I'll just give you an example. We tried to play MK. We played MK Dons Saturday, and they just tried to overplay. we nearly caught them on several occasions.
Mm.
Sadly, we ended up losing the game in the last minute. But I think I like to see more of a mixed game rather than take silly chances.
Mm.
Not everybody can obviously be like Manchester City, where you've got everybody from 1 to 11 mega comfortable on the ball.
Yeah.
So for the sake of the goalkeepers as well, because it can rule their confidence, I don't know why managers are asking them to take chances and do things that and give the ball to players that probably are not as comfortable on the ball. So I like it, but I'm not totally all for it. I think there's got to be a little bit of common sense has to prevail from the manager down.
Have the rules of football changed? What are the main changes, shall I say, to football since you kind of retired? Because obviously there's the 4-step rule and all this stuff. All that things seems to change. It's like lots of ways quite a different game now. Would you say?
Yeah, it has, and when you look at the back pass rule and all that, and now when even from the thing that sort of like angers me as well is when the ball does go dead, and you're talking about goal kicks, and could be my own goalkeeper, for instance, how long teams are taking now. That the time wasting side of it seems to have gone out the window. People are taking a lot more longer now from dead ball kicks than ever.
Yeah, well, it happened on the weekend actually. Andy, got to ask you this one. Yeah, do you do you grow any vegetables in your garden or anything, or do you into your gardening stuff?
I try and help my mum when I'm back in Cumbrae, and I miss being back in Cumbrae with my mum. So,
what does your mum like to grow?
There's bits and pieces there to do, flowers and plants, that and the other.
And Terry, got any advice for Andy Dibble's mum?
Andy Dibble's mum, get him in the garden more. He's a big lad.
Well, he makes some beautiful Welsh cakes as well. They're not from the garden, but that's her pride and passion is the Welsh cakes. So, and obviously, at the moment, I was back last week. We couldn't get out there too much really because of the weather. But when summer comes, she's always out there putting bits and pieces in and cutting the lawn and putting some veggies in and this, that, and the other.
Oh, what's your policy, Terry, on having a pair of goalposts in the back garden? Is that bad for the grass? What do you think?
No, I've been. They'd be handy for growing some beans up on the net at the back. I could put my peas on. So if they were down at the Cardiff City Stadium, they wouldn't get disturbed either, would they?
No. That's the other thing, Andy. Somebody else said it's like playing on a beach at Ninian in the old days. That big line of sand that used to run down the middle. Was that problematic at all? Was that during your era? Was it poor surface then?
Well, it's interesting talking about that because, I mean, nowadays we used to play in the frost, didn't we? A quarter of the pitch might be frozen. You get on with the game. I think the mentality of the players and everybody surrounding the game, and I know you have to take the players' safety in as well, but players' attitudes were different in them days. You'd go out and you just get on with it. You'd have to really. It's just a different. Everything's changed now, hasn't it? So,
well, I mean, the ball in those days as well was leather.
Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
When they played on the wet pitch, that thing was like a bar of soap and a lump of lead, wouldn't it?
Yeah. During your time, sorry to interrupt. Just thinking during your time at City when you were coaching, as much as you can say, were there any players who you thought really, either who are there now or who've moved on, or you really thought stood out for the time you were there in terms of talent?
Well, there's one of them who's doing really well for one of my best friends' team, and we all know he had his problems off the field. Is Mendes Lang?
Yeah.
And he's
talent-wise, or just it's interesting from us to see your perspective on someone like that.
Yeah, talent-wise. I mean, Mendes is a fantastic player, and I'm glad he's doing so well again. That year we got promoted, I think he ripped teams apart, and I think sometimes. He was a player that could carry the ball up the pitch, run past people, and he did have his problems off the field, but you'd have him in your team all day long.
He scored two at Old Trafford, didn't he, on the last game in the Premier League?
Yes, exactly.
1-2-0.
It's nice to see Bobby Reid doing well at Fulham. I know he didn't fit into plans quite as well under Neil, but he's won us well.
And what about
Andy,
the youngsters now? Sort of, you think Ruben Caldwell, Isaac Davis,
Well,
and
I mean, I'm not picking a team at Cardiff, but from a young boy, I never forget when Mick McCarthy came in the door, and we spoke about Ruben, and I said, Gaffer, I said, he's one for the future. He's got to play. You've got to play him at some stage. And to be fair, Mick did give him a chance, and I'm so surprised that he's not in the team at the moment. For me, he'd be in. I'm not telling the manager to pick the team, but we'd all, as we're here now, we'd all pick different teams, but he would be in my starting lineup at the moment for Cardiff City for sure.
What do you think of Cardiff City and the way they're playing at the moment? Tactically, because we were talking earlier about the fact that they play with two kind of inverted wingers and no wing backs, and they've got a big lad up front. There's no service,
It seems to be up and down at the moment. I mean, obviously the home form is not very good. And go away and get good results. Very, very topsy turvy, up and down, and it doesn't seem to me as if you find the right blend at the moment.
Yeah. Do you have any opinions on the kind of formation or the tactics at all, or is that just the way football is now? I don't know.
It's interesting, like I said earlier. I mean, is the build-up too slow? I don't know. Sometimes it looks as if it's too backwards and forwards to start with. But obviously they know what they're trying to get, but they know what they want, but they can't seem to get it at the moment. And early on in the season, things started a lot brighter, and the team was further up the table. And everybody I spoke to said it was more enjoyable. So I don't know what's happened recently, but it seems to be gone back away.
Yeah. Al, there's a message there which has just come in from Nigel. You might want to put to Andy. Quite a good one.
Was this the training one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nigel Harris, ever the comedian. Andy, training at Merthyr Mawr sand dunes, playing at Ninian. Life really was a beach back then.
Well, those were probably the toughest pre-seasons I've ever done in my life. And in them days, if you would not be able to get a professional footballer to run in the snow, well, it'd be unknown virtually. But that's what we did under Lenny Ashurst, and it was such a tough, a grinding that you'll honestly, it was unbelievable. But I've got to be honest, I came out feeling so fit, as did the team, and we benefited from it.
That was an amazing achievement, that 82-83 season. If you look at the team photo from the start of that season, I think it was you, Martin Thomas possibly might be the other goalkeeper. I think we only had 12 outfield players in that team photo at the beginning of the season. And you look at that and you think, Christ, there's no squad there. We're going to go nowhere. And obviously after the Easter then, didn't we did so well. But it's incredible to think how well, and he brought Bob Hatton in, didn't he, for example, but how well Ashurst did to get us out of that division.
Yeah, he did. I mean, Len obviously was a very, very passionate guy, as you know, and he was one of them that could get the best out of players, not dissimilar to what Neil Warnock did, really, in getting us into the Premier League. Probably a team at the start of the season that wasn't full of superstars, and nobody at the beginning of the season would have tipped those teams to get promoted, but they had the togetherness, the bonding, and also that fight, and with some decent players as well, to get over the finishing line.
What was Dave Bennett like to play with, Andy?
Dave Bennett and Dave and Gary are still big friends of mine, still keep in touch with them. But what a quality player. He could go up and down. He could turn. He wasn't lightning quick, but he was dinky. He could cross a ball, as we all seen in the cup final for Coventry, where he put the ball in for Keith Ouchie.
Yeah.
For the winner. So probably Dave would. I think Dave would be one of the best crossers of the ball I've ever played with.
Yeah. How did we ever sign him? I've always wondered how we ever. Sorry, Mick. I've always wondered how we ever signed him. I know Tony Book. Did Tony Book come? And then somehow we got him. But to me, 1 minute he was playing FA Cup final for Man City, and the next minute he was signing for us. And I just couldn't. Yeah. Even today, I don't understand how he ever came. He was such a fantastic player.
I think.
I just said that 82. Go on, Dave. Go on, Andy.
No, I was just going to say, I think Tony Book would have had a lot to do with that. But like you say, it was a brilliant signing for the club. One of the best one of the best for me.
Just going back to the 80-83 season again, Andy. Obviously, it was fantastic for the club, etc. But for us supporters, as you said, we travelled everywhere that season, and it was a defining moment as well. In sort of, maybe a silly question, but the trends on the terraces were sort of changing. Did you ever notice that as a youngster? Sort of, did you notice the away support following Cardiff City, sort of, dressed in all that sort of golf attire and tennis wear?
Well, it's on with the times. I think nothing surprises me in football. I mean, it's great to see things like that. But yeah, you did notice it from the pitches. I was always one that appreciated the crowd. I'd like to. I don't know what you all think of the modern day players.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I always tried to do, even when I was a player and while I was staff, my biggest thing was to always clap the fans. It was never, I know, hand on heart, that I never left the pitch without clapping the fans. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Somebody just responded to my comment about vegetables. I only asked if Andy grows vegetables, just encouraging the conversation with Terry Walton because he's a gardening expert. They're having a pop at me now, Andy. But there you go. So this is it weird, Andy? I don't know. How do you feel about it? Here we are. We're arguably all grown men. And 40 years later, we're still talking about you playing for Cardiff City. Is that kind of weird that it still means something special to us?
Oh, I can't thank you enough. And like I said, I mean, the biggest thing for me is I'm proud of my time at the club. I'm proud to be promoted as a player and a coach. So it's to say about a double promotion at the club I love.
Yeah,
will go to my grave with me. So everybody knows how much I miss the place.
We're just going to go to this question from Raniero Garcia. I apologize about the vegetables, same guy. And he wants to ask you this briefly. What would you say happened under Neil Harris and Mick McCarthy? What's your thoughts on that? Well,
everybody can go back. Then the results when both them guys came in, they both did very well. That new manager effect. Everybody knows it's a result-orientated business. 5 or 6 games losing streak, and then the manager's out the door.
Yeah, which
isn't nice, and it's not nice to see. But ultimately, if you go on a losing run like that, you pay the price. I mean, I just thought that probably doesn't happen to Errol, but you never know.
I wanted to ask you about Errol while you're on as well. Just so, if you want to give an opinion, what's your opinion of Errol Bullitt? He's out of contract at the end of the season. The club has to make a decision. Should they do that now, and should they give him a new contract? In your opinion, is that a sensible way forward?
That really is a difficult one to answer.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. No, all I was going to say, I don't really know the man. I mean, he did start well. Obviously, I keep in touch with loads of people, as everybody knows, in South Wales, and there seems to be a little bit of disgruntlement at the moment. One thing I would say was that I'd like to see a bit more stability. And personally, from an own personal point of view, I would have loved to see Nathan Jones as manager. Yeah,
that's a good call.
I mean, that's my personal thoughts.
Yeah, and around the boy there, Terry.
Yeah,
that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Should we whiz around quickly for talking about the West Brom game? You played for West Brom, Andy, didn't you? I think over the years. Yeah.
Well, on a little bit about the club.
What's your prediction for City tomorrow? Obviously, Colin Grant can't play. We've gone through a bit of a bad run, but knowing Cardiff City, they might go away and do a Cardiff City.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me if they went away from home and won the game, which they have done with recent victories away. Obviously, the away form's better than the home form. Last time I was there with the club under Steve Morrison, we obviously got a draw there, and Valérien Ismaël was in charge. It's a difficult place to go, and I know West Brom are doing really well, but it's not. There's a good chance that they could go there tomorrow and pick up a draw, in my opinion.
Terry, what do you think tomorrow?
Their away form is much better than their home form, and I'm surprised they don't pull off a 2-1 victory tomorrow night. There might be a big change in the side. They'll go out with a settled team and will play well early on and get the ball in the net. Don't put Dibble in goal; he might stop us.
Well, I believe Aaron Ramsey's coming back as well. Is that true? I don't know.
Yeah, he came over the second half on the weekend. He doesn't look fully there yet, I don't think.
I know he came on, but I'm wondering if he'll start him. But I didn't see the whole 90 minutes, obviously.
Yeah. He didn't look quite himself, but hopefully he'll come back to that.
This is where Neil Warnock was great. He could, in my opinion, he was great, getting into players and, cajoling, come on, son, get out there and give me 60 minutes of your best. We need you.
Mm.
He had a special...
I think tomorrow night they should bring him on from the start and get a good start rather than bring him on when they're already chasing the game.
Okay. Obviously tonight it's been great to have Terry Walton and Andy Dibble on, so we've talked more about you and the club rather than tactical stuff and whatever. But if I just whiz around, Mickey, what's your prediction for tomorrow? Terry's saying we're definitely going to win 2-1. I'm quoting him on that.
I'm going to go with our resident gardener. I'm going to go with 2-1.
Al?
2-1 City.
West Brom's home form is pretty good. It's pretty good, isn't it? But knowing City's players, the pressure's off tomorrow. No one's expecting us to win. And I never bet against us. So I'm going for a 1-1 draw.
Excellent. So, again, it's funny, Andy, isn't it? Whenever we do the show, City lost 2-0 at home at Preston on the weekend. We're all predicting City going to get at least a draw, if not a win, So the belief goes on.
Well, I'm going to go the same, 1-1 draw.
Yeah, good man. Andy, thanks very, very much for coming on tonight. It's great to talk to you, and also to Terry. Thanks for coming on, and thanks for you in particular, Andy, for the great memories when you were at Cardiff City Football Club.
No, I've really enjoyed it, and thanks for having me on the show. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Cheers, man. Bye-bye.
Bye.